Hi everybody. This is the first of several lectures on the factors influencing plant selection, and in this first module we're focusing on climate. By the end of this unit you'll be able to list the main components of climate and the factors that influence climate. You'll be able to describe the main characteristics of a Mediterranean type climate and list the 5 areas of the world with a Mediterranean type climate. And fourthly, you'll be able to describe the differences between the USDA Plant hardiness zones map and the sunset climate zones. Let's start by differentiating between weather and climate. Similar data is collected for weather and climate, but weather is what happens on a day-to-day basis, whereas climate is the longer-term averaging of weather data. Nationally, weather and climate data are collected and maintained by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmosphere Administration. In California, weather data is also collected by CIMIS, the California Irrigation Management Information System, and also by individual growers and private weather stations. The data that's being collected includes air temperature, precipitation, which includes snow, hail, sleet, and rain, relative humidity, wind speed and direction, and solar radiation. And climate is influenced by latitude, altitude, topography, and proximity to the ocean. The screenshot on the right here is from the UCANR IPM website. So that's the University of California Agriculture and Natural Resources IPM, Integrated Pest Management website. And the screenshot shows the location of weather monitoring stations in Santa Cruz County. If you go to this website, you can click on any of these stations and find out more about them. And the data for any county in the state can be accessed via the UCANR IPM website. Data from these stations is used by commercial growers in several ways, including scheduling irrigation, predicting outbreaks of pests, scheduling pesticide applications, monitoring degree days, and chilling hours. Data from these stations is also linked by satellite to smart irrigation controllers that many homeowners, schools, municipalities, etc. now have. The smart irrigation controllers apply irrigation in response to real-time weather data obtained from the CIMIS weather stations, rather than somebody just programming in the irrigation to come on at preset times and deliver preset amounts of water, regardless of whether or not it's needed. Let's step back for a moment and take a look at global climate classification systems. The most widely used climate classification system in the world is one that was devised by the Russian climatologist and botanist Vladimir Köppen in 1884, and later refined by the German climatologist Rudolf Geiger in the early 20th century. And not surprisingly, the system is referred to as the Köppen-Geiger system. This system of climate classification divides the world into 5 major climate zones. So these ones right here. We've got tropical, dry, mild temperate, snow, and polar. Polar is a little confusing or misleading because it's not limited to the polar regions, the Arctic and Antarctic, but also includes any areas of tundra. These 5 major climate zones each have 2 further subcategories, here and here, which are determined firstly by the distribution of precipitation, or the degree of aridity, and secondly, the temperature ranges of the coldest months and the warmest months. If we look more closely at California here, We can see that much of the state is classified by the Köppen-Geiger system as CSA and CSB. So, yeah. These zones are often referred to as Mediterranean-type climates, which are characterized by hot or warm dry summers and mild wet winters in which snow is rare. If you look at the map on the right, you can also see that a significant area of California in the southeast is classified as desert. The San Joaquin Valley, where many of our large stone fruit orchards are located, is classified as dry, with dry summers and cold, arid winters. These climate zone classifications for California are a reminder for us that we live in a state where our rainfall is limited to just a few months in the winter, and that there's a long dry period in the summer and early fall months where we typically have no rainfall. Let's take a quick look at other regions of the world that also have a Mediterranean-type climate. Worldwide, there are 5 regions that are characterized by a Mediterranean-type climate, and together these 5 regions form just 2% of the Earth's landmass. The 5 regions are the Mediterranean Basin, which is the largest at 60% of that 2%, parts of South and Southwest Australia accounting for 22%, then California with 10%, and then part of the central coast of Chile and the Western Cape of South Africa. The plant communities that are typical of these 5 regions are chaparral-type plant communities in which sclerophyll shrubs are common, and we'll talk about sclerophyll shrubs in a unit on plant adaptations to heat and drought. The names given to these chaparral-type plant communities in the 5 Mediterranean-type climates of the world are the garrigue or maqui in the Mediterranean Basin, the mallee in Australia, chaparral in California, matorral in central Chile, and the fynbos in South Africa. There are 3 climate zone maps in the US, of which 2 are in common usage: the USDA Plant Hardiness Zone Map and the Sunset Climate Zone Map. The third system is one that was put together by the American Horticultural Society. The USDA and AHS systems can't really be considered climate maps as such, as they each only take one climate parameter into account. However, the USDA plant hardiness zones often appear on marketing materials for plants, so it's important for us to be aware of them and know what they refer to. The original purpose of the USDA plant hardiness zones was to enable farmers in the Midwest to plan planting of crops, and the only parameter taken into account for this was the average minimum temperature. This system divides the country into 26 plant hardiness zones based on the average minimum temperature. And the system is of limited use for many crops and for ornamental horticulture because of the very narrow focus of the data used to compile it. If you're using zone maps as an indicator of a plant's suitability for a particular area, make sure you're differentiating between the USDA zones and sunset zones, because they're not the same, even though they both use a numeric labeling system. The American Horticultural Society, realizing the limitations of the USDA zones, came up with its own system, which was also focused on temperature, but on heat rather than cold. The AHS system included 12 zones, which indicated the average number of days in each zone where temperatures exceed 86 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius. This temperature was chosen because it's the temperature at which many plants begin suffering physiological damage from heat. This system, like the USDA system, was of limited use, but unlike the USDA system, has never really gained nationwide recognition or usage. The most widely recognized system in the western states is the Sunset Climate Zone system, which has 31 zones covering all of the mountain states from Alberta in the north in Canada to New Mexico in the south, and all states west of the Rockies, plus Alaska and Hawaii. This is the only system which takes into account all the factors that influence our many climates: temperature, both hot and cold, wind, precipitation, which includes rain and snow, proximity to the ocean, direction of prevailing winds, and latitude and altitude, which affect the length of the growing season and duration of any snow cover. Use the Sunset system as a general guide to our larger climate zones, but be aware that there are many local microclimates created by structures, plants, and local topography, and microclimates on individual sites too. These can be evaluated by doing a site analysis or evaluation that will help us in our plant selections. So just to summarize this short lecture, climate is the long-term averaging of weather data, which includes temperature, wind speed and direction, relative humidity, precipitation, and solar radiation. The most widely used climate classification system worldwide is the Köppen-Geiger system. Most of California is classified as having a Mediterranean-type climate system, which is typified by warm or hot dry summers and mild wet winters. A Mediterranean-type climate is relatively rare worldwide, as there are only 5 regions of the world, including most of California, with this climate type, and together they account for just 2% of the Earth's landmass. There are 2 climate zone maps in widespread usage in the US, the USDA Plant hardiness zone map and the Sunset Climate Zones. The Sunset Climate Zone system is the more comprehensive and covers regions from the mountain states westwards. It's important to be aware of the regional climate, but microclimates can be created by local and site-specific conditions, and we should always take those into consideration when making our plant selections.